All right, today I'm going to be talking about the gig economy. So, what is the gig economy? The gig economy is characterized by short term deals instead of long term employment. Workers have now become entrepreneurs or contract workers, and most of it is of a temporary ad hoc nature. So, we've always had a gig economy to some degree. For example, babysitters and handymen, they would all work on a temporary ad hoc basis. Sometimes you have more regular gigs, but uh, it's all of a very one-off nature, or can be. Um, so when we think of the gig economy now, we think of these larger services like Uber, DoorDash, or other delivery services, Airbnb, and the Upwork marketplace. So with the technological developments of smartphones and the internet and all that, the gig economy is becoming integrated in a much larger fashion with the broader economy. And overall, this is a very good thing. For example, with Uber, you get a lot of cars, which otherwise wouldn't really be used. The same thing with Airbnb. Somebody's got a home, they've got a couple extra rooms, the rooms are just there. They don't want to deal with a full-time lodger, perhaps, but when they're in the mood, they can rent it out, sort of like you get company for a few days or a few weeks. You get a little extra income, and so this increases the housing market or the short-term rental market, whatever you want to call it. It increases the supply of taxis in the case of Uber or other driving firms, and Upwork, of course, it's a marketplace for freelancers and businesses, and it enables people to do business with workers from around the world. So it's a good thing for global commerce and trade, and it's a good thing for customers who get access to a wide variety of professional services at a wide range of prices. And then there's sort of like the reputation and the review, so you can tell who you're dealing with, although there's still some fraud as well. There's a lot of advantages to the gig economy. For one thing, it helps to address unemployment or underemployment. Um, there isn't that much barrier to entry to getting a job on one of these services, so you just sign up and right away you can start working. For people who can't find work, that's great. Uh, And even if it's not a job you want to do, you can continue looking for your ideal job, well, at least to get some income from these gig jobs. Another advantage is flexible working hours. Not everybody wants to work 9 to 5. Not everybody can work 9 to 5. Not everybody knows when they're going to be able to work or want to work. Some people are night people, and there's not a lot of jobs that are available to night people. But when you're a freelancer, or when you're working for or with one of these app companies, then you can set your own hours, be your own boss, and decide how much you want to work. Some people are retired. They want to pick up a little extra cash so they can, treat themselves or whatever. So they're happy to work sometimes when they feel like it, when they've got nothing better going on. Other people have their own business, which might have some downtime in which they'd love to make money, especially if the business is still starting out. It's still at the stage where you're investing a lot of time and not getting a lot of return. They're building something. So app work might allow them to support themselves while they build it. I've been in the gig economy myself, not with Uber or Airbnb, although I've been an Airbnb customer. But I did freelance writing, which unfortunately the market seems to have really dried up with the advent of generative AI. which unfortunately is a better writer than me. But before that, there was decent money to be made in the extremely low priced writing services. I would sell my writing for 1 to 2 cents a word, and you could still make, upwards of $100 to $200 a day. Well, those were my best days, pretty much. But you would make $50 or $100 here and there, which not a lot of money, but certainly better than nothing. And you'd get an okay hourly, at least usually $10 an hour or something. Depends on the subject matter. Um, I would do. I worked with online casino affiliates and produced content for their website, so that was I was reasonably good at that. I also worked with some other clients. I did stuff about like visa policies, writing about visa policies of nations, which was cool because you learned about researching that and you learned about all the different rules and regulations concerning that. But I really enjoyed working as a freelance writer because when I didn't want to work, I didn't have to. I could ignore it. Sometimes the clients would get mad, but when you really felt like it, you could sit down and or if you had some bills that urgently needed to be paid, you could sit down, you could grind it out and get paid. Um, Another advantage of the whole gig economy is that it helps people with mental illness find employment. Sometimes if you're suffering from depression, you just don't want to do anything, and if you have a job, that can be a real problem. But if you don't, if you're a freelancer, then you can sort of ride that out. And when you do have the motivation to do something, you can do it. Uh, the gig economy also was a way around regulations. So, for example, in the taxi industry, they would limit the supply of taxi drivers, or medallions. Why would they do this? Well, because it's to the benefit of the medallion holders, and then the medallion holders can rent out the medallion literally and in both senses of the word, collecting rent from people that wanted to work in the taxi industry. It was very lucrative. They would get high tips, and the meter went up very quickly. So Uber, and other ride companies basically destroyed that whole scam, the medallion scam, or helped to start destroy it. They also introduced some better features, like with ride purchasing today. I tell the app, where I want to go, and it tells the driver. So there's none of that like telling the driver where you want to go and they're trying to figure it out. Sometimes you would have with taxis if you were going to a less common destination. And of course, the whole being able to see when your taxi's coming in the app is huge, um, in terms of savings time if you're busy. So the gig economy is highly dynamic. Um, like if there's less demand for a certain type of work, that's going to basically manifest itself quite quickly. Gig economy workers are going to have to adapt, and even more dynamic than the market economy usually is, because you don't have the company in the way there. Like uh, the information, the lack of jobs is going to reach the workers very quickly. Whereas when you have a firm, a large firm especially, they got a lot of revenue, then they might be a lot slower to fire the number of people they have doing a specific job that is no longer in high demand. Another advantage is the elimination of agency costs. That is, workers are only paid for their actual work. So when I was a writer, I would sell my work for 2 cents a word or whatever. And so it didn't matter, if I was slacking off for a couple hours or working, like I'm only getting paid for the final product. So it's on like a piecework system, basically. And that meant that if I slack off, I bear the cost of me slacking off, not the client. Whereas if you're paid hourly, you slack off for 20 minutes, then that cost is going to the client, not you. So this is just a fairer system, a better system where your workers are only paid for the actual work they're doing, not for some random block of time. Another big advantage with the gig economy, at least some aspects of it, is you can work online from anywhere in the world. And this is something I've done myself, sort of geo arbitrage. You can rent a cheap condo in Mexico or the Philippines for like $200 a month, and your expenses are way down. So it's a way that you can only work maybe 10 or 20 hours a week. You can still make your monthly expenses, and at the same time have a lot more free time or time to pursue other projects or interests. And then the last thing to address is, I guess, there's regulations now shutting down the gig economy. California passed one that's classifying gig workers as full-time employees, which means there's a lot more expense in having them because you have to supply them with medical coverage, all these benefits, and severance if you fire them, and training and whatnot. So the whole point of the gig economy was that it helped the market sort of get past all these regulations that were stifling things, and now unfortunately the state is coming to mess things up as usual. So that was my TED Talk. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a terrific day, YouTube.